Hey everybody, Eric Grenier here with Philippe J. Fournier for this live stream of the by-election in Durham. It's very exciting to be here with you, Philippe. You know, we love these live streams. We love these by-elections. If any of you in the comments can let us know, make sure that you can hear us and all that kind of stuff. But Philippe, how are you doing this evening?
Good evening, Eric. It's good to see you. I've missed you. Like only once a week. It's too little. We should do these live streams more often. I'm looking forward to see the numbers tonight. I think we know who should win, but the margins will be interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. And hello, everybody. Of course. Hi. It's good to see you. Um, what are your expectations for tonight, Eric? Like, what do you think will happen?
I think we'll see an exercise in democracy, and the
Oh,
winners will be those who turned out to vote. What a beautiful thing it is to see. So yes, we'll see once how fast the results are going to come in. So the last time we did a live stream, or at least I did one for federal. I think you did one when I was away.
that's
It
right.
was in Mississauga Lakeshore, and it took about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, because it had that long, long ballot, and it took forever. So tonight, I don't think it'll take that long. We'll see once the results start to come in, hopefully pretty soon, and then we'll go over the results. So if you're watching what's to the whatever on the other side of me is the Elections Canada results. So we're just going to be watching those throughout the night. They will update automatically. In the show description, you got links to both of our websites, therit.ca and 338canada.com and .ca. And of course, our podcast, which is the Numbers podcast, which comes out every week. Every second week, those episodes are for members of the podcast, and you can check that out. You can join it in the show notes. So we're just going to go through these results as they come in. Philip, how about first I will go through the results from last time. All right. So this was
Absolutely.
Erin O'Toole. He was the leader of the Conservative Party in 2021. He took 46% of the vote. The Liberal candidate got just under 30%. The NDP was at 17.5. The People's Party had 5.5, and there was no Green candidate at the time in that election. This time, as you can see on the screen, we got more of a full slate. All the major parties are there. The Greens have a candidate this time, and I don't know what are some numbers you're looking for tonight. How about that?
Well, the thing is, the swing in Ontario, if you look province-wide in Ontario, the Conservatives had 36% of the vote in the province in 2021. Right now, they are polling between 43 and 46% in the province, so approximately +8, +9 points. Um, if the swing is confirmed tonight, Durham may not be representative of whole Ontario, of course, but we should expect the Conservative candidate to at least win 50% of the vote. There are many storylines. Of course, they will be always with a by-election. They will always be exaggerated, but that's okay. It's part of the fun, right? If the Conservative candidate wins, but doesn't win as convincingly, this could be a story because the by-elections that had taken place last June had not been a good night for the Conservatives, even though they were leading in the polls, not by as much, of course. Um, and also, the Liberal candidate is a city councillor, but you just told me off air before that he's a city councillor in Scugog, but he
Yeah,
was not elected city councillor. He was acclaimed. So for
because
a
he was
moment
unbeatable.
there,
Maybe
well,
they
maybe
saw
they
he
were all
was a
scared. They were all scared.
juggernaut. Robert Rock. They thought he was. Yes, he was the candidate for one of the wards in Scugog County, or a Scugog municipality. And yes, he was acclaimed in the last election, so he did not get support, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't supported, I guess, in his riding. But the story with him is that I'm not exactly clear on who was courting who, but he wanted to run for the Conservative nomination and decided in the end that he thought the party was too far to the right for him.
Hmm.
It's not exactly clear to me whether that came before or after he knew he could get the nomination or not, because Jamil Javani is very well known in conservative circles. He's been like a TV pundit sometimes. He is an author of a book. He was involved in the Canada Strong and Free Network, I believe this is the name of it now, the old Manning Institute.
Hmm.
So he's very well known within conservative circles, so I'm not surprised that he would have won the nomination. And, we've seen for the Liberals, they often try to find a local councillor, that kind of thing, someone with some name recognition, some profile, and it has helped them in the past. They've actually had a pretty good record in by-elections. If you look at how things have gone for them in this term, they've actually gained 4 points on average. Now, that all these by-elections took place before the big drop in the polls for the Liberals in the summer. So this to me is what it's about. It's a test of the polling in a way, right? Do the results match the trends? That's the big question tonight.
Here's the thing, though. If, let's say, the Liberal candidate tonight gets 30%, same as last time, are we going to just start saying that the polls are wrong and we're underestimating the Liberals? This is what I meant by whatever the outcome is, the lessons will probably be exaggerated. Mm-hmm. How is Durham and Scugog, or whatever it is, how representative is it of Ontario? That I'm not sure. I'm almost an expert because I did go on Google Street View and did the little stroll through Scugog and Durham, so I'm almost an expert now. But I wonder, what I've heard also from multiple sources is that the Conservatives really, really put a lot of resources in there. Even though it should be a safe win tonight, it should be a safe seat for the Conservatives, they do not want to leave any doubt of who the leader and who is leading in the polls right now. They want to crush it. Just a regular victory would not be good enough in their mind, which I think is interesting. It's a by-election. We're 18 months away from the federal election, if all goes to plan. But they want to send a message that, we are crushing you, and we will crush this. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to prepare myself for the conclusions of tonight, and I'm not sure what to think.
Yeah, well, that's always how it goes. Like you said, though, like Jenny Byrne, who's top advisor to Pierre Poilievre, has been in the riding. And I once went to a wedding in Bowmanville, so pretty much a local.
Yeah.
But we're going to be putting up the numbers against expectations, right? So the last times that the Conservatives formed government, Bev Oda won this seat with 47% of the vote in 2006. She won it with 54% in 2008. And when they won a majority government, she won it with 55%. So that's sort of the bar, right? If Giovanni is getting into the mid-50s, then that means you can kind of extrapolate that the Conservatives are maybe in a position where they could win a majority government again. If he comes just below that, but he's growing on Erin O'Toole's vote, you're right. Then it starts to get a little muddier. What kind of conclusions can you draw? The NDP often does pretty badly in by-elections. They've lost, I think it was, I have it in front of me, an average of 6 points in by-elections during this parliament. That's not likely to be replicated in a general election. There's not a lot of motivation to vote for a third party in a by-election. So, can we take too much from the numbers for the NDP for this? So that we'll have to watch and see. All right, so we're hearing that the first polls are coming in. I do believe my thing is supposed to automatically refresh, but I will just refresh just to make sure.
Yeah, every minute.
There you go. Okay. Hopefully I don't have to do it myself. But we did get our first poll in, and it's an 18-vote lead for Robert Rock, and 9 votes for Jamil Giovanni, and 7 for Chris Borgia of the NDP. So
ready for a call?
I guess that's it. All the polls are wrong. Guess that's it. The Greens have 1 vote, and the Centrist Party has 1 vote as well. A couple of these little parties. We've got a Centrist Party. We've got the United Party of Canada, the Rhinoceros Party.
The Rhino Party, yeah. Only one candidate for the Rhino Party. A bit disappointing, we have to say, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Not the 40-ish that they use. We're used to now. So
one little note. Thank you, Jared. Philippe, we got a question from Jared Walsh. Probably the first time you've gotten this question. Will 338 be changing to 343?
Well, the answer is no.
No. I had the same thing happen with 308. I never changed it. Of course. It's just too much trouble.
Well, the thing is, several things. It's a lot of trouble, but also the brand is there. I mean, it's people. Many people know 338. It sounds well. It rolls off the tongue, right? 338. And also, when it came out, the domain name for 343 was taken right away. So somebody maybe was trying to blackmail me or something, but not gonna work. In fact, there was I remember some very nice guy, and it was in public relations. He got the 342 Canada because it was supposed to be 342 at first. And he sent in the links so I could have the domain. I thank you very much. It was kind of a gift, but it's not going to be 342. So no, it's not going to change. But thank you for your concern. 338 is going to stay. It's going to be vintage very soon. So, but more seriously though, for those asking, the model with 343 seats is ready. It's not updated yet because it will become official, I think, in late April.
April 22nd, I think, is the date.
Yeah. Okay. So the Sunday that follows that, the site will be updated to the new map. So.
Okay. I saw a few questions. You can leave some questions in the comments. We'll try to get through them. We'll probably miss a lot of them if there's lots of comments, so our apologies ahead of time. But there was a couple comments about the United Party, and I just wanted to make one little note there. I do like that they have as their little acronym UP. It's very, very positive. They're the United Party of Canada, the UP. Anyway, Grant Abraham, if you recognize his name, it's because he was going to run for the Conservative leadership. I think it was in the last one in 2022, but or maybe it was the one with Erin O'Toole. Anyway, he wanted to run, and he couldn't get like the money and the signatures by the end of so he decided just to start his own party, which might be the easier way to do it. So we're still only at that one poll, and it's only 36 votes, so it could be a very small place in Scugog. It could be elsewhere in the riding, and I don't remember seeing. There wasn't a huge amount of difference in like the support where it comes in the riding. Like there are some rural polls. They tended to go more conservative. Some of the polls in Bowmanville and close to Oshawa were a little bit more liberal. So if some of those polls are coming in first, then you might see some better numbers for the Liberals. And we should probably explain, if you don't know where this riding is, it's to the east of Toronto. So it's just at the outer edge of the GTA, just to the east and north of Oshawa, and includes the larger towns are Courtice and Bowmanville, which are close to the 401. And then up in Scugog is a place like Port Perry, which is on one of the lakes up there, which I didn't realize there were lakes. So that's kind of the profile of the riding. Kind of a residential, suburban bedroom community for Toronto. And Erin O'Toole had won it in 2012 in a by-election, and it's been conservative since 2004. That's one of the reasons why we don't expect that it's going to change hands tonight.
It would be very surprising.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it would be... No, not it would be surprising. It would be shocking.
Yes.
I'm not sure the newspapers would be ready to have a headline with, the Liberals pull an upset in Durham. Because it's not in the cards.
No.
I mean, the thing is, there were some people that sent me messages saying, well, hang on, though. The Oxford by-election was close, but there was a whole context there. The Conservative domination had been contested. The former was it the daughter of the former Conservative was running as a Liberal or something. So there was a huge context there. It's not the case here, and also. Back then, the federal polls were pretty even against the Liberals and the Conservatives, and I believe at that time, the Liberals were even leading in Ontario. That is not the case anymore. When we look at the polls, my projection average for Ontario, I believe I have 29% for Liberals and 44% for the Conservatives. So it's a pretty big swing in the most populous province. That's why the Conservatives are up to 200 seats in the projection. So
and Dylan Coolidge is asking who we think is going to win. We do think it'll be the Conservatives who will end up winning. Like we said, we think it would be pretty shocking if the Liberals were able to pull this off. And Joel Watts, Curtis, not Courtice, thanks very much. It's Curtis. And Zilla Wells saying it's mostly farm. Yeah, the riding is pretty big. But like most of the people in it, right, they live just north of Oshawa, they live in around Bowmanville, and then there's a whole bunch of like farmland, like you said, that's in like the northern part of the riding. But most of the votes, most of the people in it are kind of close to the 401, close to Oshawa. So we're still at this one poll. I always like thinking about what this poll would have been, right?
Where is it? Yeah, exactly.
It's Keeners who counted it first, who were really very fast. They're already home having a beer. Speaking of which, We have our
Oh, yeah.
traditional drinks with.
Yes. What are you drinking, Eric?
As
tell the
usual,
people.
I'm having a Magner cider, which is my go-to. I enjoy cider. And you are.
I am drinking vodka soda with a hint of lime.
Yeah.
So, and I also have my election candy. Love candy. Sour candy, something that really you have to taste it. You feel alive when it goes in your mouth. So
Yeah. So enjoy responsibly, everybody.
that's what she said.
No, don't. So enjoy responsibly. We're keeping this clean. It's only 8:45. It's not even 6:00 in BC, and I'm sure we have some. If we have any BCers, let us know what it's like out there. So we're still waiting.
Next,
numbers.
well, the thing is, also we should mention Durham will not exist. This riding will not exist in the new map. It's completely been butchered.
Yeah, what's the new name of it? It's
Well, thing is, it's not the new name. It's cut in half. And
Right.
It will be several writings. I don't have it right around in front of me. I could put it up, but so that means that if we followed by the rules, and that there was a story also today, I think it was a National Post that says, well, the thing is, writings that change borders more than a certain amount, they have to have a nomination.
yes,
So,
that was in the Hill Times. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. That was
for the
Hill Times,
Conservatives, we're going to do that. That was the rules they set in.
So if we look at the Jamil Giovanni, should he win, according to the rules, well, he would have to pick one of the two ridings it will be divided on, and there's going to have to be a nomination. So this should be interesting. Let me pull the should
Well, we
should
just
have
saw
one.
from our friend Kyle, Bowmanville, Oshawa North.
Oh, there it is.
Which sounds right. And yes, also Clarington. Yes, someone mentioned Clarington, that this is part of the riding. I find, like in Eastern Ontario, where I grew up, we didn't talk as much about counties and stuff. I don't know. But around the GTA, people talk about Peel and York and Durham and Simcoe, and like it means something to them right away. I still needed to kind of figure out what those were. Like it took me a while to, determine that Halton was where it was, Peel was here, and then you got York, and anyway. So
Street View, Google Street View.
yeah. So this riding isn't going to change too much. So they're making a bunch of changes in kind of central Ontario because they're adding a riding in Gwillimbury, Tecumseh, or Tecumseth, I think it's called. New Tecumseth, whatever. Anyway, they're changing some ridings around. So that is why a lot of the map is changing in this part of the country. So a lot of people who are going to be voting for Jamil Giovanni, Robert Rock, if he manages to hold on to this lead for the rest of the night, they might not get the chance to vote for him next time, right? So that's always an interesting kind of consideration. And by-election is always held on the map that's in place, not on the new map, because you can't have someone representing part of a riding that another part of another MP represents. So that is going to happen if an election takes place after April 22nd. All right. So do you remember on the podcast we did last week, we did some over-unders?
Yes, we did.
Do you remember what they were?
Roughly, yeah. I believe. Well, did you write them down?
No, I didn't.
Is
We
that a
did
trick
54,
question? Oh, okay.
54 for the
54.
Conservatives.
Yeah, 54 for the Conservatives, I remember.
And you took the over and I took the under, but just to
did
be
the
kind
under.
of controversial. And then for the Liberals, I set the Liberal at 20. And I think we both chose the over.
Yeah, I think
20%.
so too. It feels like something I would say. The Liberals had 30 in the election. You know, if they do come out for this city councillor, I don't know, 22, 23 maybe. I mean, I would be shocked if it was much lower. I mean, it could be 18, but I would be shocked if it was like 13%. I also remember that I put the line for the Greens at whatever the PPC gets.
Yes.
Will the Greens that didn't have a candidate last time, will they get more than the PPC? And the PPC line was at 2.5, I believe.
Yeah. And then we had the line for the NDP at 13. If I
Really?
remember correctly.
That's
yeah, you
low.
put it really low. And
did
I
I
chose the over.
Did I
and,
take the over too?
No, you chose the under.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
no.
you're down on
Yeah.
the NDP when we
No,
recorded.
no.
So we'll see what happens. When I looked at it, so when I was looking at the kind of the swing in the polls, you already kind of talked about how that kind of sets the benchmark for whether the results match what we're seeing in the polls. So if you take the swing from the last election and you apply it, this swing that we're seeing in Ontario, and you apply it to this riding, you would get 54% for the Conservatives. You would get 20% for the NDP because they're actually doing a little bit better in the polls in Ontario than they did in the last election.
They always
and
do.
you'd get only 19% for the Liberals. So if we're following the swing in the polls, technically the NDP could finish ahead of the Liberals in this.
Yeah.
But it is hard for the NDP in by-elections. They just, especially in the GTA, they just do not, when they're not really in it, it feels like this way for the NDP especially. We didn't see it so much as the Ontario provincial by-elections last year, but often for the NDP, when they're not in it, their vote just doesn't come out in by-elections.
And also, I mean, I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it happened in 2019. It happened in 2021. The NDP, didn't match their polls in Ontario, especially. So, polling at 21 and getting 19 or something like that. I mean, does the same rule apply to by-elections? Not sure, but as you said, when the NDP is not competitive, and they are, unfortunately for them, not in Durham, perhaps those people just stayed home. So, is it March break in Ontario? Is it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's March break here for most elementary and secondary schools.
Ontario always does it like a week after or something.
Yeah.
It's never on the same.
My March break is next week. I have to teach tomorrow. So.
All right. Even the CEGEP people get March break?
We don't.
Reading week? Is
not
that what
only
it
do
is?
we get. Well, it's not really reading week. They call it la semaine d'aide à la réussite. So you have to.
What?
La semaine d'aide à la réussite, to
God.
help to succeed or something. Not only do we have a March break, we have a fall break. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's nice. Coddled CEGEP. Okay. We
beautiful,
had a question from Random Guy. It wasn't actually a Random Guy. That was his name.
Hey, Random.
He said, when was the last time Durham was close or went to a non-conservative party? So the last time was in 2000.
Yeah.
And, you could say that there was the split between the PCs and the Canadian Alliance at the time. But the Liberals actually got 45% of the vote in that election 2000. In the Durham, kind of the equivalent of what's a Durham now. The boundaries would have been a bit different. And in that election, the Canadian Alliance had 30%, the PCs at 18%. So that's the last time this part of the province voted for the Liberals. I wish I'd looked at the provincial stuff. I feel like this is the kind of writing that might have gone to the McGuinty Liberals at some point. Maybe it's one of those ridings.
Well, I'm watching the results here, and the equivalent of 2004, when the Conservatives did win it and held on to it, Bev Oda only won by 2 points. So, I guess it was one of the good riding for the Liberals. They won it in 93, won it in 97. So, again, the split of the Conservatives, but it was so much easier for the Liberals when there were two conservative parties, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, that makes it a lot easier.
It was much easier back then, but look at the provincial results. I know it's PC right now, but has it been PC for a long time? I have to look at this.
I think so, because I think it was his father, actually, Erin O'Toole's father, held it for a while. And Dylan,
Really?
I was just seeing you in the comments. Thanks very much for the nice comments. We got a question about Toronto St. Paul's. So. Right now, this is a by-election happening in Durham to fill the vacancy from Erin O'Toole when he resigned in August. There are actually two other vacancies right now in the House. So there's one in Toronto St. Paul's, which was Carolyn Bennett's riding. And the other one is in La Salle Aymar Verdun, which is David Lametti's old riding. And we heard just last week that Daniel Blakey in Elmwood Transcona was going to resign at the end of March. So there'll be 3 vacancies. We don't know if they'll hold them all at the same time. They probably will, because they became vacant at roughly the same amount at the same time. So that's usually how it's done. So if we have by-elections Toronto St. Paul's, we have a by-election in Elmwood Transcona, and one in the island of Montreal. Could be a pretty interesting night. I don't think the Liberals would lose in Montreal, but Toronto St. Paul's, if we see really strong results for the Conservatives in this by-election, I would be afraid as a Liberal. If going into Toronto St. Paul's, I'd be very, very bullish if I was a Conservative. And for Elmwood Transcona, it was a big margin last time, but it has been close in the past between the NDP and the Conservatives. And again, if we see a strong result for the Conservatives in this by-election, I wouldn't rule out that they could win Elmwood Transcona and Toronto St. Paul's on the same night, which would be just a crushing kind of defeat for the two other parties that they would be very afraid to go into an election with that. But neither of them, I would say, are. It would almost be the upset would be if both Toronto St. Paul's and Elmwood Transcona flipped, because I would still put the NDP and the Liberals as the favorites there, but not by much.
If the Liberals lose Toronto St. Paul's, that's a sign of like a really bad general election coming. They're not supposed to lose that, even though Ms. Bennett was very popular, even though they had good, they had over 50% of the vote, I think, in that riding. If they lose that, that's a really bad sign for what's to come. And La Salle Villemar, well, the thing is, there's no really competition. I mean, Bloc will get marginal vote, and the NDP is going to get some, but it's a really good, safe Liberal seat, an opportunity to recruit to somebody of quality, to attract somebody of quality. So,
yeah, that's what these by-elections usually can be, right? And you would say in the context of Jamil Javani's not, I would say, a star candidate. If this was a general election, I don't think he'd be touted as a star, but he is a well-known kind of conservative figure, right? So I'm sure the Conservatives were pretty happy to get, a younger man, a black man, running more representative maybe of the country than the Conservative caucus currently is. So when you can get a good candidate like that has some name recognition, that can fill kind of gaps that you might have in your caucus as it is, those are good things, right? And if you're the government, we have, the nomination race in Toronto St. Paul seems like it's going to wrap up with Leslie Church winning it, because there hasn't been anybody else, and she's well known within Liberal circles because she's worked on the Hill for Christy Freeland, but beyond that, she's not a national figure. But I don't know, could they find a star candidate to run in Montreal? It's 100% chance of becoming an MP, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, La Salle Villemar is right up there among the safest Liberal seats. I mean, it went. I'm pretty sure that the equivalent went NDP in 2011, but it was the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
I just pulled the provincial results for Durham. Very interesting. It went Liberal in 2014.
Okay.
And then before to go back, you have to go back in the 40s. For another Liberal. It's been Progressive Conservatives from 1943 to 2014, as you said, John O'Toole of the Progressive Conservative, and then Lindsay Park, Todd McCarthy. A good Conservative seat. I don't know what happened in 2014 for the Liberals to win this, but oh well.
Well, the PCs had a pretty rough campaign in 2014.
2014, that was that was the win majority.
That was the what was it? The million jobs pledge by Tim Hudak, and when you added it up, it was a job that was created 1 year, and if it lasted 4 years, it counted as 4 jobs or something like that. It was really weird. That was a weird election, and the Liberals in that one, they just cleaned up in the GTA, and they didn't really have much else, but they cleaned up in the GTA. So it's not surprising that Durham would flip there. So we're already 27 minutes in, and sorry, I got something in my eye here.
So I'm guessing that they don't have the tabulators.
No, Elections Canada does not have tabulators. Old-fashioned pencil and paper, no risk, no mess, no fuss, no chance of any sort of error. And did you know that if you bring your own pencil or your own pen, Elections Canada will let you use it? You don't need to use their pencil.
Is that something unusual, or?
I don't know. I think people would expect that they can't bring their own pen. I don't know why you would want to. Let's say you had a lucky voting pen. But yeah.
This is my lucky pen. Oh,
yeah. Every time I voted, my guy won. I'm sure there's someone who thinks that way. Anyway, I didn't realize that you could do that, because I remember asking, I think it was during the pandemic, asking about what measures they were going to put into place for the pandemic. And Elections Canada said one of them was that they'd ordered more or less a pencil for everybody. And so you're allowed to take your pencil home, which was like a little bonus that you voted. You got to have a little pencil, like a little golf pencil. But anyway, in that conversation, it was mentioned that you could always just bring your own pen. That was always part of the rules. So these are the important things that you learn on this podcast, on this live stream. Speaking of it, why don't we use the time to reset here? Because it's 9:00. Polls have been closed for half an hour. We are waiting for more results out of Durham. We only got one box that has been counted. It's probably one of those special boxes.
Invisible ink. Sorry, reading comments.
Yeah, that could defeat the purpose.
That could
of
be a
Visible
problem.
Ink. Yeah. And anyway, so we're waiting for more results to come in for this federal by-election in Durham to replace Erin O'Toole, who resigned last August. I'm Eric Grenier. He is Philippe Fournier. We got links to all of our things in the show notes. You should subscribe to this channel because we put up our podcasts every 2 weeks of the podcast of the numbers. Our exclusive episodes are at thenumberspod.ca. They come out every second week. The episode we have coming this week is a public one, so we'll definitely go over some of these results after we have a little bit of time to think about it. You know, a little time to digest the results, see what the fallout is from it, because that's always fun. And like you said, maybe see how the overreactions are or the underreactions. Sometimes something big happens and people don't see it.
Yeah. Underreactions to by-election? Like what you said earlier, like we have 3 vacancies right now in the House, right? And it would be interesting to have a single night. Do you actually think it's going to be one night? Because I don't want to sound like a cynic. I never do, right? But
you keep saying that. I'm not sure if it's being sarcastic or if you really believe you're not a cynic.
If you're in the Liberal war room, don't you want to have a Liberal night? Like I would just say, you know what, the Winnipeg.
Yeah, but a
seat?
Liberal night. But then if the NDP loses, that's like an even better Liberal night.
Is it though? Yeah, well, I guess. Well, thing is, yeah. But I mean, don't you want to have 2 Liberal seats and then you win, and then suddenly are the Liberals back?
Yeah, but then wouldn't you? But if you finish a distant third in Elmwood Transcona all by itself, doesn't that sound bad too? Because a lot of people don't. Like I was listening to something and someone was referring to whether, the margin that we see in the polls right now, which is about a 15-point lead over the Liberals nationally, or would be matched in this by-election. But if the Conservatives win this seat by 15 points, that's not a good result. They should win this by a lot more.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, well, yeah. But it's true.
Yes. We did got a question here from Almut Gaming. How similar is the PPC to the Conservatives? The thing is, you don't really hear as much about the PPC anymore.
Well, I know they're still there.
Yeah. But they haven't gotten themselves into the conversation and the mainstream.
I know Maxime Bernier likes to make his tours. How similar are they? I want to be very careful in my answer here.
Well, here, how about this?
Okay, go ahead.
You know when Tucker Carlson came to Alberta?
Yeah.
Danielle Smith did go. She was like there with him. But Maxime Bernier went. But I did not see Pierre Poilievre there.
Or I think there was no any not cabinet, but in a shadow cabinet. I think nobody from the Poilievre team went there.
So that
doesn't mean they don't
kind of
like
signifies something. That's what I would think.
I think the Conservatives are a big tent. The PPC is not a big tent.
No.
Those 2 parties may overlap some. I think it's fair to say there's some overlap. But the Conservatives are a big tent.
Yeah.
I think that would be my best answer. I don't want to get in trouble here. If you guys agree or disagree, go ahead. But I think that might be my answer. So.
All right. And
hey, if you want to use invisible ink, and so that
if you want to increase your odds of your ballot being thrown out and spoiled, go ahead and use whatever else you want. You can do it. No one's going to stop you, but they're not going to count your ballot. Use a pen, use a normal color, make it clear. That's it. That's all I was saying. I wasn't saying bring in like some funky stuff to mark your ballot. So.
Well, looks like who do you think will win the provincial election this year? Question from Dylan.
Well, we got 3.
We got 3 general elections.
New Brunswick, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia. I think...
Tell the people. Go ahead.
The NDP seems like they'll probably win in BC. The right is divided between BC United and the Conservatives. We saw some polling that suggests the NDP in Saskatchewan was becoming more competitive. I think they'll make gains, but I just don't think the map is winnable for them until they start getting some support in rural Saskatchewan, which they haven't shown any ability to do. So I think the Saskatchewan party will win another election there. And New Brunswick. That one I'm not sure. That one to me is a toss-up. I'd say that's a toss-up between the PCs and the Liberals.
I agree, and I just fiddled with the numbers of New Brunswick this weekend. It's not an official projection yet, but I think I got 24 PC, 22 Liberal, 3 Greens. So it could come down to a single seat. Perhaps the Liberals and the Greens could get together and surpass the PCs by 1 or 2 seats. It's possible, but I would say New Brunswick is a real toss-up.
Yeah.
The others, not so much.
Yeah.
For now. BC will be competitive one day. I just don't think it is this year. So.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because it doesn't seem like the two parties, the Uniteds, the BC Uniteds or the Unitarians or whatever you want to call them, the BCUans, they do not seem to be open to any sort of rapprochement with the Conservatives, and I don't think that the Conservatives are either in British Columbia. So if you're not from BC and you don't, so there used to be the BC Liberals, who were the main kind of right of center party to the NDP. They decided that the Liberal brand was too weak, so they wanted to name themselves BC United. Their numbers tanked in the polls, and they're now third behind the BC Conservatives, who are kind of like a fringe party. They got 2% of the vote last time, but now they have a couple MLAs across the floor from the BC United, and now it's, you have the Conservatives at like 25%, the BC United maybe at 15%, and the NDP at 45% is just cruising along. Less support than they had last time, but could probably win many more seats because of the split on the right. So it's going to be a fascinating election just from that perspective, right?
Could be a very short night, even though it would be late for us if we do a live stream this one. But the NDP could win seats they haven't won in decades because of the splits. But
do you
there's
think that
still many months to go. We'll see. But
do you think that the New Democrats, after winning 80% of the seats with 45% of the vote, will implement some sort of electoral reform in British Columbia because it's so unfair?
Ce bateau a quitté le port. That ship has sailed. So don't throw tomatoes at us. I know there are many fans of proportional representation or some sort of electoral reform. I'm just not very optimistic it will happen under such a result. So
there's a question from Neil McKenna. I don't have the answer to this, so maybe someone who can Google it could look it up. He said Durham has had 2 by-elections in recent memory. And he says, any idea which federal constituency has had the most by-election? I'm guessing it would be a riding somewhere around Ottawa. Because I think that...
Is that so?
Well, I think that in the past, you would have had a leader need a seat and someone would resign. And then you'd have nearby, you could take the horse and buggy. But I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a good question. But it must, if it is a riding that has had tons of by-elections, it would be simply by chance. Right? There's no particular reason that there should be lots of different by-elections. I mean, people in Durham have had to vote a lot. So they voted in 2011, 2012, 2015, 2019, 2021, and now 2024.
And 25 next year. So, well, yeah.
Yeah.
It won't be Durham, but the same people. Okay.
And over that time, provincially, they had to vote in 2011, 2014, 2018, 2022. Same riding boundaries.
I have the list of federal by-elections. I'm trying to see a repeat here. I don't. There's Durham is the first repeat. No, Calgary Centre, no. Vaughan, no. Winnipeg.
The thing is that the names of ridings change, but
they do change. Yeah. Oh, Toronto Centre. I see twice Toronto Centre in the past 2 decades. In this century. Who won Toronto Centre in 2008?
That was Bob Ray, wasn't it?
It was Bob Ray. There you go.
No.
Are
you already preparing for the quiz for next? Oh, we got we got some more polls. We got one more poll.
2 boxes, double.
47 votes. And look at this. Now it's just a 7-vote lead for Robert Rock. It's just falling apart for him.
Yeah,
He's 40% right now. So it's 26 votes for Jamil Javani at 31%, 16 for Chris Borgia. Patricia Conlon has 3 for the PPC. The UP, the United Party, has 2 votes, tied with the Greens. The centrists are at 1. The Independent and the Rhinoceros Party have 0. So if you're just tuning in and you're seeing these numbers, and you're like, what's going on? These are just some very small polls. There was some part of the riding in Durham that supported the Liberals last time. If you look at the poll by poll, they did win a few polls. So if some of those start to report first, you're going to get better results for the Liberals. This isn't like in the United States where we can compare where the poll came in to the last results and see how things have shifted by then. We got our first cat visitor.
Oh, there she is.
Which
okay.
one is that?
Oh, and there's it. This is Vishnu.
She seems to be the character. I don't think I've seen the other one as much. Oh no, Shiva has come on sometimes.
Yeah, she's gonna come back. By the way, on the list of by-elections, I just Control F. Outremont comes up 6 times.
Oh, there you go.
So or a variation of Outremont. So I think this one has come up several times. Would you guess? I mean, Outremont. It was part of our quiz during the podcast. It was Tom Mulcair that won it. Do you remember the previous Outremont by-election?
Stéphane Zion?
I'm a little bit disappointed for Aurélien Noël won it in 1967 for the Liberals.
Oh, right. Mr. Noel, right. Yeah. Yeah, of course. We got a question from Dylan, and he says he can't give us money. I think he's too young to transfer, which is fine. We're not. And he says other ways to support you is that spread this around. Tell people to watch this. Bring in your friends. Get the crowds. Come on.
And listen to the podcast. Every 2 weeks we have a free episode. Hey, well, the Vishnu is coming. So this is Vishnu. Well, she's a calico cat. She doesn't like when I speak. So there you go. Bye-bye. And there she goes.
Okay. That's a lot of action there.
Well, she's...
Well, I have Mercy. She's nibbling at my fingers because I'm not paying attention to her. But I do not allow her... I do not have a place for her to jump on. Although there was that one live stream where she managed to jump on the table behind here. And that was quite funny. Okay. We got some more polls coming. This is I say this every time. I always expect it to be a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Every single friggin' time.
Well, thing is, the Ontario by-elections went
very
fast.
fast.
Like at some point, as we were speaking, boxes piled up, and yeah. But
all right, we got some more polls. 3 more polls.
It's very slow. Yeah.
We got 2% of the polls reporting. Turnout so far is at 0.18%.
Yeah.
Based on the advanced poll, we should be on track for somewhere like 20. So we'll see where that goes. So now we have Jamil Javani in the front. He's got 80 votes to 64 for Robert Rock, 32 for Chris Borja. Hey, that was a good poll for Khalid Qureshi. He got 14 votes. Centrist Party storming ahead. Patricia Conlon of the PPC at 10. United Party at 5. The Greens at 5. Independent at 4. And Adam Smith of the Rhinoceros Party is at 1. So everybody's on the board.
Wow.
Everybody's on the board. And I guess we'll see what next polls come in, but I'd be surprised at this point if Giovanni ends up falling back behind.
Liberal candidate doing his impression of the Maple Leafs. Just strong start and then just crumbles and never comes back.
Yeah.
By the way, the Leafs are playing tonight, the Bruins. Any hockey fans in the audience? I'm a Habs fan, but it's so depressing to be a Habs fan these days.
What's going on with the Habs? Why aren't they better?
Why? Because they lost Carey Price and they did bad moves, and they live off the past, and they'll never be good again. My whole life.
We heard it here first,
yeah,
folks.
that's right. It's over. So
all right,
the Bruins are leading 3-1 against the Leafs, by the way. So it's always a good night when the Leafs.
And Lewis, thanks very much. That's very nice. This is not a non-alcoholic beer, however.
I also, to go back to the by-election page, Toronto Centre comes up 6 times. So,
but see, some of these ridings, they never change their name. That's why they're coming up.
Well, yeah.
Because Outremont, I think, is one of those old ones. Toronto Centre is one of those old ones. We're gonna
Last
get
time
to
there
the
was a
bottom of it at some
by-election
point.
in Toronto Centre. Would you remember that? It was in 2020.
Yeah, that was Mercy Ian.
That's right.
Yeah.
Replacing Bill Morneau.
Yes.
If I go to the next one, in 2013,
That was Chrissy Freeland.
who replaced Bob Ray.
Yeah.
And then the previous time you had it, Bill Graham was replaced by Bob Ray. And then if we have to go back to 1905, it was a conservative, Edmund James Bristol. I think it's a little too far for us, but anyway.
Of course.
So.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Toronto Centre was the election where the Annie Paul
Yeah.
came close, and then in the next election, all went away.
Yeah.
All went away after that.
That was a bad campaign.
Yeah. Okay, so hopefully we'll get some more polls coming in soon because we only got 2% coming in. And
Brandon says he's a Leaf is Sens fan. You have all my sympathies. I think the Sens are barely better than the Habs, and the Habs stink. So good luck to you. So
yeah, we were supposed to be good this year.
they were supposed to. Well, were they? Were they
Yes.
really?
Yes.
Well,
they were.
yes. Yeah, they're behind the Habs right now. That's
I know.
That's
That's
shameful.
this bad. Anyway, I'm following the Oilers. I like it when good players are good.
Oh, you're a Ben Wagoner. Okay.
Yep.
I'll have a little drink. There you go.
Oh yes. When I had a bit more hair, I did get the thing that I look like Niles Crane from Frasier. I could play the third brother.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
It's a good show. It's a good show. All right. So,
We're gonna be
215
here
votes.
a while, huh?
Oh God. Well, once they start coming in, right?
Well,
Allegedly. Yeah. All right. Let's. We got some question about this from Almont Gaming again. So let's go over the results from last time. So it's 46% for the Conservatives last time. So far, after 5 polls, they're down. The Liberals are at. They had 29.9%. So right now they're holding it, but I mean, again, 5 polls. 17.5% for the NDP. Where are they doing? Oh, they're doing all right, 15%. And 5.5% for the People's Party last time. They're now at 4.7%. Curious to see what's going to happen with People's Party vote on this. Because it has been a definite strategy of Pierre Poilievre to try to squeeze that vote. He's not going to get them all. There's some people who hate the Conservatives, or some former PPCers, supported parties other than the Conservatives in previous elections. And there's going to be some that feel that even Pierre Poilievre is not conservative enough for them. But if they're able to squeeze that PPC vote instead from the just under 5% to more like the 2 or 3%,
yeah.
Those extra 2 little points matter. They don't matter when you're up by 15. They don't really need them anymore. So, but at first they needed them, right? When we saw the first polls in the first year or so after Poilievre became leader, People's Party dropped, and that put the Conservatives at the 35 to like 30 for the Liberals. It's hard to almost remember that it was 35 to 30 less than a year ago.
It's been a while, huh?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I mean, we dabble in numbers. At some point, you get numb. The same way that we got numb of seeing 34 Liberal, 32 Conservatives for like 3 straight years.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, when we saw the first 40s back last August.
What was the first poll? I think it was like an ECOS poll, wasn't it?
Well, I can pull this up.
Yeah, you can pull it up. There was a
I
poll
know
that came out.
I know a really good site that compiles all this stuff.
No, my site, I don't update with polls anymore. Yeah.
Okay, let me go back in time here. I remember the last poll that had the Liberals ahead, and it was marginally ahead. It was the Léger in May 23. Wow. 33 Liberals, 31 Conservatives. But in the aggregate, the Conservatives were already leading then. It was just the odd poll. The first 40 was, I see a 39 from Palace Data in August, 41 Main Street Research in late August, and then Abacus Data 40 in September. And I remember I was at the Federal Conservative Convention when those polls came out. Suddenly it was not 5-point lead, it was a 12-point lead. Then Abacus Data 41. So yeah, Abacus Data in September 10th, 2023, 41-26. So that's the new normal.
Yeah.
That's what it's been for the past 6
It has more or less been like that for that whole time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we did get another comment from Almont Gaming. He said, "My hair looked like what?" He didn't hear what I said. I used to have some. That's what my hair used to look like.
You wear it well.
Yeah, this is by choice. I actually do this.
Mix of Niles. Is it Niles Crane? Niles
Yeah.
Crane?
Yeah.
And Jean-Luc Picard. There you go.
Hey,
There you go. A little mix there. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that. Best captain, obviously.
Well, obviously, not even close. Yeah. So, but I mean, when you scroll down the polls, and we had, I can see here, Léger in August 22, 33 Liberal, 28 Conservatives. and then the PPC was at 6 or 7% on a regular basis. So to go back to what we were saying, the PPC got 5% in the election. We're polling between 4 and 6. Some polls had them even higher at the end of the last campaign. But since then, I think the highest recent poll was 4%. They get maybe an odd 5 here and there, but usually they're closer to between 1 and 3. So it doesn't matter for the Conservatives to win more PPC votes. Maxime Bernier is really happy to keep getting those donations and touring the country. I don't think he thinks he's going to win a seat ever again, but you never know.
We did get a question by Joel. He was asking how many seats in Ontario could the Conservatives have won under O'Toole had there not been a PPC vote? He says, I feel a lot of Niagara and Southwest Ontario ridings might have flipped.
Yeah, but that's not many seats, though.
Well, like if you looked at it, like if you just assumed every vote from the PPC went to the Conservatives, it was something like 20. But a lot of them required too much of the vote to be really plausible. When I looked at it, there were 7 ridings where the PPC vote was enough, and it was a plausible amount that could have gone to the Conservatives. And almost all of them were in Ontario. There was one that was Trois-Rivières, but that was simply because the margin was like, how many votes was it? It was like a few dozen. So you didn't need a lot of the PPC vote. The PPC didn't have a lot of support in Trois-Rivières. It's just that the vote was so small. They only needed to take like less than a third of it. But it was ridings primarily around Kitchener, around the like Niagara area, I think. But it was primarily Kitchener, because Kitchener was a place where the PPC did pretty well. They usually got like 5-10% of the vote, and the margins were really close. So those are the only ridings I'd say, so maybe like a half dozen. If the PPC hadn't been there, enough of their vote would have gone to the Conservatives. Not all of it, but enough that the Conservatives would have won. It wouldn't have really changed anything, though. Would have pushed the Conservatives up to like 125 and the Liberals down to 155. Wouldn't have really changed the outcome of the election.
So, are we still stuck at 5 boxes?
Yeah.
That's it. That's all, eh?
Yeah.
Well,
we are still stuck at 5.
I should have prepared a quiz.
Oh, wait. We're being told to refresh. Let me
But
see.
I didn't.
It's refreshing in 18 seconds for 2. There we go. 2 more polls. 157 votes for Jamil Jivani is at 46%. Robert Rock is at 26.5%. The NDP is at 12%. People's Party is at 5%. Centrist Party still at 4%. Greens are at 3%. Up is at 2%. Independent at 1%. And the Rhinoceros Party is at 0%. All right, so
0.
Sorry, 0.3. I rounded down.
Okay.
Yeah, that was unfair to me. I got 0.3% of the vote. Don't want to take anything away from it. It's 1 vote. It could be actual Adam Smith. And it could actually be the economist from history, the philosopher. We don't know. We haven't checked. We got some people looking into it right now. We're going to look at it. All right. People, stop telling me to refresh.
If I can go back to this by-election page, which I think is fascinating, it's Wikipedia. They list the reason why there's a by-election, and I Control F death and 251 match.
But a lot of them were in the past, like long ago. Right?
Yeah.
When there was like a bar at the House of Commons and they were half drunk during QP every day.
Oh, you mean
sanitation
the 80s,
was
right?
bad.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, those was highballs and stuff like that, or whatever it was. Whatever it was that got Belushi. We have this question. Well, we got some more polls. We're up to 10. We're up to 4% of the vote. Turnout is now cresting 0.5%. So we got 48% right now for Jamil Jivani, 27% for Robert Rock, 13% for Chris Borgia of the NDP. I think we're starting to get to the area of where...
Making a call?
No. You want to make a call? I'm ready to make a call. I don't think anything...
No,
we should at least wait until 10% of the boxes are open. But I feel like these are kind of where we're going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Conservatives might get up to 54, 55. The Liberals might drop down to 20. But I feel like we're probably going to be somewhere around this. So we'll see where things are. I should have changed my auto refresh settings. I'm afraid to click on this. I don't know what's going to happen.
But is it like every minute that he refreshes?
We got to go in every 90 seconds.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable. People be patient. It's going to come in. All right, 90 seconds. All right, so now we're up to 15 polls reporting. 48% for Giovanni, 26% for Robert Rock. You know, you took the under on the NDP for 13%, and they're at 11.6 right now.
Yeah, that
So
one was
you were
really
maybe
low.
right.
Maybe, but when you said that, it feels like it was too low. It feels like I was.
Well, that's why I chose the over.
Yeah, of course. Well, the thing is, also we should mention we had an over under about Durham in our Christmas over under, right? Our yearly, and that line was 55. And I don't remember what I picked. I must have picked the over.
I feel like you did, maybe.
Yeah. So, you know, again, maybe just before Christmas, the Conservatives, no, they were already at around 40% in the country, above 40% in Ontario. So, yeah, maybe I was a bit bullish with the Conservative vote, but we'll see. I mean, the first few boxes that we saw tonight, and we're up to 15 now, they were okay for the Liberals, right? Monsieur Roch began the night very strong. But I think this is settled. Like I'm not gonna make a call because it's too obvious here. I'm not gonna say j'en ai vu assez as I always do. But you know, the Conservatives were supposed to win this riding, and we see now that they probably will.
We got one question from someone because question was what is the Rhino Party?
Oh well,
There was a few years ago when it was like a few decades ago. Which election was it? I think it was like in the 80s. And it managed to get, I think, nearly 1 or 2% of the vote.
Really, huh?
Yeah, something like that. Like the Rhinoceros Party is a joke party. Like literally a joke party. If you go to their website, it's just full of jokes. Like one of their positions is how the Rhinoceros Party is the best party because their lies are the best. Like, you know, it's like a cynical party about the political system, and it's just a joke party. Sometimes, like, what they used to have some funny policies. I can't remember any of them. I think one of them was about like annexing the moon or something like that.
It was the Rhino Party that put Maxime Bernier in Beauce to run against Maxime Bernier, right?
Yeah, they found
And
an
their
independent guy.
their
I don't think he lived in the
slogan was-
riding even, eh?
No, he didn't. They just found a guy named Maxime Bernier to run against Maxime Bernier, and the slogan was like, "Don't take any chance, vote for both." But yeah, so it was pretty good. Yeah, they were a satirical party, and I think the fake Maxime Bernier got like 500 votes total. So I'm gonna put this up, but it's
All right.
So yeah, they're a satirical joke party that doesn't take itself too seriously.
And they've been
that's why
around,
they
I
have
think, since the
three votes.
1980s. I think they've been around that long. And the leader, I don't know if his name was Cornelius the First or something like that. Anyway, they're adding a little. You know, in the United Kingdom, they have lots of these parties, right? They have the Stark Raving Loony Mad Party or something like that. I think they had a party, and it was led by the Spaghetti Monster, the Holy Spaghetti Monster, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, they have things like that. I don't mind that. You know, let's have a little bit of fun with.
It's
this.
part of
It
our
doesn't have
system.
to always be so serious.
I have it here, by the way. 2019 federal election. It's when Monsieur Lehoux of the Conservatives beat Maxime Bernier. It was 38% to 28%, so it was kind of close. The fake Maxime Bernier got 1,000 votes. 1,072 votes with 0.8% of total vote.
I wonder how many of those
Rhinoceros
people
Party.
were fooled.
Got the wrong one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, at least the story was not that the fake one had at least the margin between the two. But Maxime Bernier did lose fair and square that election. But I thought it was quite funny. But yeah.
Yes, the Flying Spaghetti Monster. That's the name of it.
Flying Spaghetti Monster. Yeah.
All right, 5 seconds till the next refresh. I'm not gonna jinx it by hitting refresh myself. I mean, we're supposed to live in an age of automated. All right, so we got 50.5% for Jamil Giovanni. He's clearing the 50% mark. The Liberals are at 26%. The NDP number is going down now. They're down to 11. PPC is at 4. The Greens are at 2.6. So one of the over-unders was whether the Greens would finish ahead of the PPC.
Close race.
And the Centrist Party, 2.5. Pernay Gunti, 1.5% independent. Up is going down. They're at 1%, and the Rhinoceros Party still has 3 votes. Hey, we're over 10% of the votes. Do you want to call it? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a conservative hold in Durham. I know I'm going on a limb here.
Like breaking news. Come on, everybody. Whoa, jeez. We're ready.
J'en ai vu assez. I've seen enough.
We're ready to make a projection.
Hold. Monsieur Givani, going from... he was talk radio, right? He was doing talk radio. So going from talk radio to the House of Commons, he has a year and a half to be the MP of Durham before he decides to stay in politics.
Presumably he will, yeah.
And choose which riding he will go to. So yeah, conservative hold in Durham. It's official.
Yes. All right. So that's done. Well, but we need to wait and see what the numbers are, because this is why the whole reason we're here, not really to see who's going to win, because we thought the Conservatives were going to win, which they did, or which they will. They're projected winner, to use the language. That's
the networks can take our stream.
Okay, yeah. They should stream us around the country. So 50.5% right now. So the last time the Conservatives cleared 50% was the by-election in 2012, when Erin O'Toole got 50.7% of the vote. Bev Oda cleared 50% in both 2011 and 2008. For the Liberals to clear 20%, the last time they didn't do that was again in the by-election. Now, the by-election in 2012 took place when Bob Rae was the interim leader. Justin Trudeau wasn't leader yet. The NDP was second in the polls, maybe even first at this point in 2012. And the NDP finished second with 26%. So we'll see how these numbers are going to go. But if the NDP holds at 11 or around 11, it's going to be not a very good result. You have to go back to 2008 when they got 10% of the vote in this riding. So that would not be a good number for the NDP. But like I said, the NDP has averaged a loss of 6 points in by-elections since the beginning of this parliament. So they're on track to do that here again, right? So they're at least matching their by-election performance, which has not been good since this parliament started. If the Liberals only hold at 26%, I mean, that's not... Obviously,
that's not too bad.
It's not too bad compared to how the polls are. They should be doing a lot worse. So we'll see if the numbers continue to drop. But like we said, the benchmark based on where the polls are would be around 54 for the Conservatives and around 20% for the Liberals. And we just saw with the update that Giovanni's now up to 51.5. So his number's going up. And Rock is down to 25.7. So his number is going down. So we'll see.
54.9 would be the funny mark for us, so that the over-unders on Durham would be one apiece.
Yeah, their record was in 2011. They got 54.6%.
54.6, huh? Yeah.
What's your gut? Do you think they can clear that?
Yeah, I do. To answer, somebody asked us, is there any way to know which poll is being counted live? I don't think we have. I mean, I'm sure Election Canada knows, but we don't.
And often the parties do. Yeah. Like if you're at like a party event, sometimes they have the spreadsheet that is being filled out by their own kind of returning officer person,
right?
Or a poll, what's it called, clerk, or the person who is there to watch the numbers get in. The only province I think that actually gives district level results is PEI.
Really?
I think because I was watching the PEI ones
like live.
Yeah.
Live?
And they keep the same polling districts or the polling boxes, so you can compare from one to the. It was like I was John King. It was so much fun. But no, we don't. They don't give us that information, which would be really nice to have.
It would be it would be nice to have because it's a by-election and we don't have one writing. Yeah. But for a real election, it would be too much information.
Yeah, it would probably smash the systems. And also, like when you said whether they could clear 54.6, which is the recent record for the Conservatives, pretty much every update we're seeing Giovanni pick up a point, half a point. Yeah. So seems pretty
good boxes.
Pretty likely that he can get up to there. The scrutineers, yes, Brandon, that's right. Scrutineers, that's what I meant. Thank you. So I'm curious to see where we're going to end up with turnout. So we're at 13%. Turnout is at 1.73. So what would that be if these trends continue? Now, obviously, the biggest boxes tend to be the ones that have the most. So how would I figure this out? got to use my humanities calculator here.
There you go, humanities calculator. It's okay. It's good stuff.
I think I can divide it by the percentage or something.
For the NDP, though, I mean, I know it's a by-election,
13%.
and there's no difference between when you lose with 20% or you lose with 12%. There's no difference. But if you underperform in every by-election, like, what does that say about your get out the vote machine? What does that say about your voter enthusiasm? At some point, it has to weigh on you. And again, I don't want to be too hard on the NDP because the past
They might not be putting
by-elections.
much efforts into it either.
Yeah, but that's what you should be doing,
And they
right?
should. Why not? Get some people, put them in a van, drive them on down the 401. Because we saw lots of Liberals went to Durham. Lots of Conservatives went to Durham.
They did, absolutely.
And at least at the time being, the Liberals are doing better than we would have thought based on where the polls are. And the Conservatives are doing better. The NDP is doing worse. So maybe there's a lesson there. But right now, Giovanni just dropped. So maybe a couple polls coming from Bowmanville or Oshawa where the Liberals have a little bit more support came in. So we'll see. So I think that line now of 54-55, I think is going to be the question of whether they get up to there between now and when we get more results in. The polls have only been closed for an hour, so it hasn't been that long. Let's be fair. It feels like it's been longer than an hour, but it's only been an hour and 5 minutes. So
an hour with you is like 10 minutes in real life, Eric. It's so much fun.
And with our wonderful audience who is leaving comments and questions. If you do have any
be nice
questions,
in the comments. Be nice in the comments.
I think people are being mostly nice. I think it's good. Be nice.
Mostly.
Be nice. Yeah. Jagmeet and Marit were in Durham. So Marit Stiles, leader of the Ontario NDP. If Jagmeet Singh hadn't gone, that would have been not very good. Because Justin Trudeau he always goes to by-elections. He always does at least one visit. Yeah. And apparently they went to a brewery and people kind of like doxed the brewery because he went. But it used to be unusual when Trudeau would go to by-elections early on in his prime ministership. It was seen as a weird thing because Harper never did that. He wouldn't go to by-elections because I don't know why. I guess he didn't want to risk
overshadow your candidate, maybe,
or risk going to a riding where but Trudeau would go to ridings where they didn't have a chance of winning. Which was what was kind of new, right? Harper would kind of stay out of by-elections in general. And I think he probably did it because if he didn't want to go to the ones where they could win, but if he started to go to some, then it would be a question of why he wasn't going to some. So it was just better just to stay away from them all. Whereas Trudeau went the other way, just go to all of them, which I think is probably, if it was me, the smarter move because galvanizes the volunteers, makes them feel like these people who campaign in by-elections. You get lots of local volunteers, but you also get lots of people that are brought in, right? Yeah, and maybe they get to practice knocking on doors and looking through the software for voter ID and all this kind of stuff. You want to keep these people engaged. You want to keep them interested and enthusiastic because you'll want them in the general election, right? So you can't just take a by-election for granted because these are for a lot of the volunteers and stuff, obviously if they care about their candidate, want them to win, but they're also little test runs for the general.
You have to be, and you have to be passionate to do this. Yeah. I mean, I grant that sometimes partisans can be hard to deal with when you speak with them, especially when what we do, you and I. But I also appreciate that when you are involved in the democratic process, you get very little in return. As you said, many of them are volunteers, and we have to appreciate what they do because I know I wouldn't do that. Have you ever considered going into politics, Rick? Have you ever thought about it?
When I was younger, before I did stuff.
Younger, younger, 20 or 12 or? Yeah,
around university, which I'm sure everybody did at some point when they're in university.
You think about it. You look at the local writing association. You look at the. I went to McGill and there was an association for every major party. You think about it, then you realize, hey, that's a lot of work. I don't want to go to late night meetings and talk about policy, even though
we're too lazy.
It can be fundamentally interesting, but you have to be very passionate to do that, and I guess I wasn't. So
we got one question that actually just because you've been talking about your model a lot. What do you do with the by-election results?
Well, I make an adjustment usually. I look at the thing is right now it looks like it looks like I'll be very close with a conservative. Looks like I will have overestimated the NDP and be close with the Liberal. When there's a by-election like this, it depends on the turnout, but usually turnout is 30%. In Quebec, sometimes it's a bit higher, 40%. So I make an adjustment. I make an average of what I have and what it was, and depending on the turnout. So there will be an adjustment in next Sunday's update. But the thing is, we have to be careful. Sometimes they're taken out of context. Like the Oxford one, again, we mentioned it earlier. The Oxford by-election had a very specific context that had the Liberals doing far better than they were supposed to.
And they won't be able to do that again in the general.
Exactly. And I repeat that for those who don't know, but the model is made for a general election. It's not made for a by-election. So that's why sometimes it's a bit off, but it will be mostly okay if the polls are okay in a general election. There was a question earlier that I missed who asked it, sorry, but it was what is the average turnout in a by-election? I know provincial elections, it depends on the region. I mean,
it depends on the province,
In Quebec, Montreal by-elections, 25%, 28%, 30%. If you're in Quebec City, it's often above 50% for a by-election. So it really depends on the regions. It depends if you have if the seat matters a lot or if it's just a safe seat. So that's why, Durham, it was not a big contest, but it looks like the main parties put some resources into it, so the turnout should be okay. What did you say it was with your calculator? Around 30s, mid-30s, maybe?
No, well, just based on the advanced turnout. So if you take like what percentage of the total vote, advanced vote, was in 2021,
right,
and you apply the turnout in the advanced vote in the by-election, it was only somewhere around 20%. So, we're not on track, because right now we got 20% of the polls counted, and turnout is 2.9. So if you times that by 5, you only get up to 18%, right? So we seem to be on track for that kind of thing.
Okay. Ugh.
Federal by-elections tend to be somewhere like the 15 to 35.
That's bad.
It's usually pretty bad.
It's Ontario too, and
yeah,
I will go back to this because it's not a myth if it keeps happening. Doesn't look like Ontarians have been much engaged in politics in past cycles, but I won't blame them. It's a by-election in a safe seat. So.
Yeah, well, we've seen this often in the GTA as well. That just there's not turnout tends to be a bit lower in the GTA. There's not. I don't think there's a huge amount of interest in politics in suburban areas, particularly. People might not have that much identification with the riding that they're in, that kind of thing. Whereas if you're someone in Atlantic Canada, if this was a by-election in PI, I would expect the turnout to be over 50%. Because especially in rural areas, it means a lot more who your MP is. But I'd be, if you did a poll of people in Durham who their MP is, Erin O'Toole at least was leader. But before he became leader, I wouldn't be surprised if his name recognition in his own riding was relatively limited, right? So the thing is, the people who are coming out to vote, they are the ones who...
Bless them.
Yeah. And also, they're going to vote in the general, right?
Yeah.
If you're someone who's voting in a by-election, you're voting in the general.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people it always gets me a little bit annoyed when people talk about turnout was low, so it doesn't matter, blah, blah. By-elections generally, even when the turnout is half, a third of what it is in the general, they always still make a lot of sense. It's not like... Yeah. It's, if you average them out and you compared it to your expectations based on the polls, the history of the riding, they'd be very close. It's never like turnout was low and the NDP won a riding that they've never held in their history, and then in the next general they lose it, they go back to 5%. It just doesn't happen like that.
When was the last big upset in a by-election? Right. But just before we answer that, we had a question from Nelson here. Do federal leaders watch the by-election results like this one closely, or is it something they would check tomorrow morning?
Hi, Justin. Hi, Pierre. Thanks for watching.
So
leave a comment.
The thing is, they would be aware. Absolutely. I'm not sure.
I'm sure.
Well, they're watching us if they watch anything, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But I think they would know they have got to have a good idea of the result beforehand.
I'm sure they have someone. I'm sure they have someone who is emailing someone, who is texting someone, and is being like, "Oh yeah, by the way, Pierre, Jamil's up with 53%. You can go to bed." You know, if any of them is sitting refreshing Elections Canada tonight, it's not a good use of the taxpayers' dollars. I'll just say that they can wait. You know.
But okay, so yeah, I know you have a very good memory and you know your elections history.
Okay.
When was the last time you had a by-election and you had a big upset? Like you remember, like, oh my God, what happened there?
Like a federal one? Because there's sometimes the provincial ones, right? Like when the Sask party won that seat in northern Saskatchewan, Athabasca, that seemed to come out of nowhere. No one seemed to be discussing that. You know, the fact the Greens won the PI by-election just in Borden Kincora like a month ago, like that was a bit of a surprise. Yeah. But provincial ones especially can have extremely local dynamics because the riding's so small, right? This is a riding with 116,000 eligible voters, right?
That's right.
In PI, there would be like 7, not even. There would be there would be a very low amount, right? So the last federal huge upset that was a big surprise. I mean, when the Liberals almost won Brandon Souris in 2013, that was a surprise because that was like a rural riding, but they didn't win it. There was a poll that came out like the day before that had him winning by like 20 points or something by Forum, which we all remember that one probably if you follow polls. So, but I can't remember like a real upset where everyone was like...
Okay, so when Olivia Chow left, it was, I think it was Spadina, Trinity Spadina. She left and the Liberals won that. That was not an upset. That was not a surprise. The NDP was already down in the polls. It was before Justin Trudeau's victory. I think it was in 2014 or 2013. I'm trying to think that like seats that changed colors. Don Mulcair winning the Outremont was not an upset. We knew like it was going to happen.
I mean, it was an upset historically. But it wasn't a surprise.
It wasn't a surprise that night.
We knew I can't remember the last by-election where I was just shocked by the results of who actually won and lost. I'm often shocked at who finishes second or third, or like how strong their support was. Like the Ontario by-elections that took place last summer, the NDP was really close in Canada Carleton. Wasn't expecting that.
No,
but kind of knew the Liberals would win that one because they had a good candidate there. So, but yeah, I don't remember the last huge upset, the last huge surprise.
Oh well, okay. Yeah. I'm scrolling here. I don't see.
Yeah.
So that's why. I mean, again, look at the result here. Is there something here that shocks you? The NDP is much lower than we thought. But
yeah.
But
what?
Again,
okay. What?
Is that a surprise? Is that a surprise? No.
What surprised me with these numbers? Nothing surprises me. That the Conservatives are at 53%. We had said that the benchmark based on polling is somewhere around 54, so they're very close to that. Not a surprise that they're not hitting it exactly, or they're not, the Liberals being at 24%. We put the polling benchmark somewhere around 20. They have those get out the vote operations. They're overperforming the polls, still dropping quite a bit of support from the last election. Not surprising. The NDP at 12%. On the one hand, I kind of thought maybe they would do better because their polling has been okay in Ontario. But on the other hand, as we've said a couple of times, they have historically done bad in by-elections. So to see them down, 5 points, 5.5 points, again, not a shock. Nothing too surprising with these.
The PPC is at 5%.
They're down half a point.
Good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, which is like they've struggled in by-elections. They've lost an average of 3.5 points. In by-elections so far this Parliament. So you would have expected them to be, 2 or 3%, but they're still at 5%. And the fact that the Conservatives can be at 54% when the PPC is at 5%, it shows how the result in 2021 wasn't just because they had PPC vote that was taken away from them. The Greens at 2% maybe, but
that's a bit low, huh? But
it is a bit low, but they had 5% in 2019. Again, a small party, hard to get numbers out. So this feels to me like the least discussable result.
And yet, and yet here we are.
The Conservatives more or less matching their polls. The Liberals more or less matching their polls, maybe down a little bit, or doing a little bit better. The NDP not doing that great in the by-election, which is historically what happens. I feel like this kind of confirms all the narratives.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, what's the takeaway from, like, what's the headline tomorrow? It's Conservative hold. That's it. I mean, it's not. Is it a crushing victory? Well, it matches the swing.
I mean, it's a 30-point win, which would be their biggest win since 2011, when the NDP finished with 21 points, so they were 33 points behind. They won by 30 points 31 points in 2008. Like, the headline would be not just Conservative hold. I think it would be like a big Conservative win. Yeah. I think the narratives are starting to get set, and I don't know. We'll see. What do you think? I mean, these numbers are looking pretty solid. We got 29% of the vote coming in.
54% for the Conservative. There you go. That was our betting line.
Yeah.
Right on it. Right on the money.
Yeah. We did see one. I did see one question saying, like, is this a Conservative area? It is. It's been Conservative since 2004. The Liberals won it when the vote was kind of split in Ontario during the 2000s and 1990s. And before that, the riding would have been so different, right? Because the GTA has been changing so much over the time. But this is a Conservative area. So the fact that they win it, not a surprise. That they're increasing their support, not a surprise. So yeah. This is, again, kind of matching. I'd set the benchmark at 54%, and that's where they are right now. So kind of confirms to me that the polling is kind of lining up with where people are.
Man, the NDP just can't get a good night.
No, they do not.
It's just
they haven't had a good by-election in a long time. But they haven't had to defend a seat in a while.
That's true, but even in DG Westmount, I mean, where they, I guess there was the Green leader there got what did he get, like 11%, maybe ate up a bit of Green of NDP vote, but then the NDP is just That's the thing is I know it's not competitive, but still you get to get your vote out. And I have a question for you because I do not know the answer to that. But the thing is they don't have the per vote subsidy anymore at the federal level.
No.
But at many provincial levels, there's still that. Do by-elections work in there? Like, do you get more money from the government for the parties when there's a by-election, and do they count those votes?
I'm pretty sure they would get, if they meet their threshold for the expenses, they would get the expenses reimbursed at the 50 to 60%. So the threshold, I believe, in a local election is 15%. So so I don't think the NDP is going to get its money back. The Liberals will get some of it back. The Conservatives will get some of it back. So I think we're going to wrap up at top of the clock. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Because we're getting pretty close to the results and not, well, I mean, we got 29% of the vote coming in, not really expecting that it's going to change all that much.
It's slow too. It's very slow too.
It is. It has been pretty slow. So why don't we go through the parties and kind of what kind of night it's been for them? We'll start from the bottom. We'll start with the Greens, okay? 2%, 2% kind of matches where they were in 2019, or sorry, in 2015 when they got 2.5. Forgettable by-election for them.
Expectations were low, but to not even beat the PPC, I think should be disappointing a bit for the Greens. But okay,
because they've been polling ahead of the PPC.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
PPC at 4.9 right now.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, they're holding the 5.5 they had last time.
Yeah.
And it's not just a question of like a by-election thing, because as I said, they've in this parliament tended to lose support in by-elections. So, still going to be a factor, right? Because we still see polling where they're at 3, 4, 5%, right? So sometimes you get them at 1 or 2%, but that vote is still partially there. And the fact that the Conservatives are still able to grow their support, despite the fact that the PPC is taking 5% off the table, is a strong thing for them. 12% for the NDP. I think that's a disappointing night for them.
Yeah, very much so.
This isn't a good seat for them. This isn't a good area for them. But 17.5 is what they had last time, and now they're at 11.4. They don't do well in by-elections, but
Can't get their vote out.
yeah. All right, so we got 23.4% right now for the Liberals. So that is down about 6.5 points. So they got 39% in Ontario in the last election.
Right.
So this would put them in the low 30s, which would be good for them
Yeah.
because we don't see polls having them in the low 30s.
No, most polls is high 20s.
Yeah. So it's
Interesting. Yeah, no,
it's like a midway between a bad result and not awful considering. You know what I mean? Because if they would have held their vote, that would have been, I think, really surprising. But if they dropped 10 points, probably matching where things are in the polls right now.
What was the turnout last time? Let me just check here. I'm just surprised. Turnout in a general election, the turnout was 61%. So a bit below average, but not that much below average.
Yeah.
Turnout tonight, might not be 25. Well, okay.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a bit of
Like,
a
for instance,
problem.
I mean, the Liberals, when they lost to Erin O'Toole in this riding, they had 20,000 votes.
Yeah.
And now they have 1,300.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people that did not go vote.
Yeah, I mean, if we assume that the turnout, I mean, it'll probably be, like I said, the biggest polls come in later. But if we multiply everybody's vote by 3, the Conservatives will be at 10,000, which is a drop of about 21,000 votes. The Liberals will be at 4,500, which is a loss of over 15,000 votes. So we'll see where the turnout will end up by the end of it. But it hasn't been, we're not on pace for a very good turnout, right?
No.
Not expecting it to be much over 20%. All right, so 54.5% for Jamil Javani of the Conservatives. Like I said, 54.6% was the record for the Conservatives, at least the modern merged Conservatives. This was in 2011. If he holds there, and if anything, when we're seeing some of the numbers that are coming in, it looks like it will be more likely to go up rather than down. Just based on the fact that the earliest polls were the best for the Liberals, it seemed. I think this is a good result for them.
Yeah, plus 10 in Ontario, plus 10 in this riding, or 10-ish. Yeah, it's way more than they need.
Yeah.
If they gain 10 points in the province, easy majority for the Conservatives. So this kind of confirms the swings that we have seen.
I think
more
that's
than enough.
That's I think what's important here is that we've seen lots of strong polling for the Conservatives. We haven't had a by-election with real votes to kind of back it up, but now we do, right?
Yep.
And so these by-election results do not give us any particular reason to believe that the polls are underestimating the Liberals or overestimating the Conservatives. Every reason to believe that the polls that are suggesting the Conservatives could win 200 seats, win a very big majority, completely plausible, completely kind of capturing where people are right now. Where people will be in the next election, that's another question. But I think for the Conservatives, they're matching the benchmark they would need to win a big majority in this riding.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Also, for those watching, because we're about to get off the air now, but I'd like to just share the link to our podcast for those
Yes.
who want to check it out, to those who want to maybe listen to it. We have a free podcast, Eric and I, every 2 weeks. And the week in between, we put it on Patreon. So and we have of course our members that ask questions, that suggest topics. We have discussion on Discord. It's a great place to be. And so if you're interested, I just put the link in the comments. So it's numberspod.ca, or en français the same thing, www.leschiffres.ca, and we also have a podcast in French. Eric speaks really well French. So yeah, it's I know it's somebody it's surprising, but his French is really good and improving, and so give it a try.
Bi-weekly
if you're
French
interested.
lesson. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, big headline out of this. Conservatives get a big win in Durham, as expected, but they also managed to match their polls, which I think was the big question going into this. The Liberals have dropped support. And when they look at the kind of results they have here, they should be worried about going to an election. Probably a reason. Probably the best. And the NDP, too. So probably the best sign that there won't be an election this year. Because replicate these numbers in a general election and the Liberals and the NDP will be in big trouble. So.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. This was a big first by-election test since the polls shifted, so it was interesting to see the results. The results will keep pouring in for the rest of the evening, but no reason to expect they'll end up being too different from this. They've been holding now for the last little while, over the last 10% of the polling boxes. So, Philippe, thanks very much.
Merci beaucoup, Eric. Thank you very much. And thanks, everybody. Again, see you on the Numbers podcast every Thursday. And Eric, or we'll do this in the next by-elections.
Yes,
so,
and I'll chat with you just on Thursday, and that episode will be here on Friday. So subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you then. All right, good night, everybody.